C'è Astana, Kazakhstan team.
This is Astana, Kazakhstan team. Yeah, looking fresh. We are ready to win.
We are rolling pedals for the gold medals. Our job is to win. Astana.
Welcome to Cycling Fashion Week, the only global podcast that looks at cycling purely from an aesthetic and superficial point of view. The podcast is brought to you by Le Club, host to the world's most exciting cycling brands. LeClub.cc is the go-to destination for this season's premium cycling apparel. Shop brands like MAP, The Service Course, and Fingers Crossed Socks with worldwide shipping and bespoke packaging. Demand more from your cycling experience. More brands and categories are arriving at LeClub.cc soon. In fact, last week, they announced that they were getting Quack shoes from the United Kingdom. They're bringing that into North America, shipping worldwide as well. So get ready for a new online experience as LeClub.cc are relaunching their website this spring. I'm your host, Alex. I am joined by my regular co-hosts, Warren and Tony, who, like me, are now professional podcasters, I guess, since we have this new partner on the podcast. Guys, how's it going this week?
It's going well this week, but right at this moment, I'm literally buzzing. I like before hard trainer rides. It's just a trainer ride for our trainers. I like to take pre-workout. The bros know the bro science, and it only is really useful if you're doing like a really hard workout. And I didn't check the TSS, and this wasn't that hard of a workout, so it didn't wear off the pre-workout well enough.
So this should be a good podcast.
So now I'm like really uncomfortable because if anybody's taking pre-workout, it's like, like kind of like half a pill of speed or something where it really kind of gives you like your nerves start sort of dancing on end a bit. And it's great if you're putting in the effort to burn it off. But when you sort of have a like low intensity endurance ride and didn't check that it was going to be hard, then it just lasts.
I thought you were going to say you were buzzing because we're now professional podcasters and shows brought to you by, not to you, brought to our listeners by Le Club. That's why I thought you're buzzing, which we're obviously also excited about. But
Tony's on the Floyd Landis juice for the podcast tonight. Yeah, we got a new partner on the podcast. We're very excited about that. We always said that we would only choose to work with brands or companies that we like and think are cool, and that was a perfect fit for us. Le Club, pretty well known in Montreal, at least as a little coffee spot that cyclists go to when there's the Grand Prix Cycliste de Montréal. The pros all stop there, do a couple of Instagram pics before they go ride on Camillien Oud for the recon. But yeah, they've established themselves as a pretty good online destination for shopping some of the brands that we talk about on the podcast. So we're very happy to have them on board.
I mean, it could be that maybe I worked off the C4 pre-workout and now I'm buzzing from the excitement, but I'm as equally excited as you guys. I think like we're always willing to sell out, but we had caveats on stuff that we wanted to, and I think all of us have ordered from the club prior to this sponsorship, and obviously we'll continue. I've had great experience with them. I haven't been to Montreal in a while because of the pandemic, but I understand them as a coffee shop is one of the best in the city, regardless if you're a cyclist.
Speaking of the pandemic, I just want to say, if you go back on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and listen to the last episode from 2 weeks ago, I just want to be on the record that I had COVID during that episode. I tested positive a few days later. So this was the equivalent of the Michael Jordan flu game when he had the flu and he put up something like 53 points. This was my flu game. I hosted the podcast while I had the beginnings of COVID-19. I did not go in COVID protocols like Tony did. I think I had a milder COVID-19 experience. I probably lost 10 watts on my FTP as a result of COVID-19.
So you're down to what, 360 now? 360
I'm actually down to 350 now. 360 was my beginning FTP. So I'm at 350 now, which works out to about 7.1 watts per kilo for me, which, I hear is pretty good.
Did you not watch The Last Dance? Michael Jordan said it wasn't the flu. It was a bad pizza. It was he got a za delivered, and there was all these sort of conspiracy theories that that it was, what was it in Utah? Was it a Utah game?
I think
Was it the
so.
finals?
I think it was the
Think about-
Jazz.
Well,
Yeah.
in my case, I can confirm that it was COVID-19
Yeah.
brought
So
into.
we'll call it the flu games. That's what it's known as. But either way, it's about playing hurt and going through and sort of like excelling when the chips are down. I don't excel when the chips are down. I don't even excel when the chips are up. So I took a break. I needed to rest, but good for you, Alex. You're the Michael Jordan of this podcast.
Well, we don't excel on this podcast. It's not part of the ethos of the podcast. Like we said, we're not fast. We're more considered about we're more concerned with looking good, and that's what we do well on this podcast.
Speaking of, there's been some kit releases that if we want to look good, we shouldn't wear.
Okay, so for our news segment this week, as Tony mentioned, there's been some kit releases that it's our duty to talk about as the Global Cycling Style Authority here on Cycling Fashion Week. And one thing that definitely grabbed our attention, it occurred at the beginning of the 2-week window between our episodes. So this one might seem like it was a little while ago, but we didn't address it yet. And I think we have to address it. The bicycle parts company ENVE, which is obviously very well respected for what they do. They make wheels, they make stems, they make everything pretty much in terms of bike parts. They launched kit. They launched a kit collection. It's called the Horizon Collection. They say that they are driven to reach the summit, the end of the trail, and that to complete the journey, wherever that may take you, it's their desire to venture beyond the confines of the everyday through the expanse of terrain that exists between you and the horizon. So that's a very long description of why it's called the Horizon Collection. So they launched a bunch of kits. They launched, I guess their flagship one is a jersey. There's a gray version, like a charcoal gray version, and a green version that has, I'm going to call it the peak of mountains on it, sort of a fade that has the peak of mountains. When you look at it from afar, it could almost look a little bit like an Argyle pattern, but when you zoom in, you do realize that it's mountain peaks. The green is maybe a little bit reminiscent of Astana bluish green from a few years ago. They have a long sleeve jersey. They have a short sleeve jersey. They make it in the men's and the women's. The colors are the same for both genders. And that is the ENVE Kit that they just released. They also released bibs and some vests, bottles, as well as some more casual clothing as well. ENVE, very respected bike parts company. Guys, what did you think of that release?
Anyone I think in design knows that, inspiration, especially inspiration from nature, is important. And that's what a lot of architects and designers and furniture designers and stuff will take. But the really good designer takes the inspiration and twists it just enough that you get a sense of where it comes from without being too literal. To me, this was too close to literal. This, like, looking at this, just looks just like a bunch of mountains on a jersey. It doesn't have enough nuance to it. Like, it's too obvious. Like, you don't even have to call it, you don't even have to have whatever their tagline is of getting to the summit, because they're like, oh, this is like that'd be called the summit jersey. So it's like the design is a bit lazy, a bit sloppy. And then overall, I don't really like I think if you're going to go some sort of pattern, some sort of texture, like, go full on bold. Like, this is a mix between, like, it's not a cool, slick, like, kind of like, solid color, never get sick of a jersey, and it's not a like wild, we're excited, you're standing out jersey. Like, it's really kind of boring and in the middle and feels like very sloppy design work.
Also, for a brand that is primarily known for like having massive logos, like the logos are kind of restrained. So yeah, Tony, I kind of almost wish they'd just gone crazy with that and just purposefully made their logo massive and done something like that in an interesting way. I agree with everything you've already said about it, but one thing that stood out to me is, as a brand that's known to be pretty expensive, I find it kind of funny that the t-shirts are only $30. Like, you go to Rafa and a Rafa logo t-shirt is like, what, $90? And I just, it's a missed opportunity for ENVE to charge more money to people who already own their wheels, who would probably spend $80 on an ENVE t-shirt.
Problem I have with this collection is I don't need ENVE to be making kit. I think ENVE is just fine making wheels. And as an ENVE wheel owner myself, not to brag, I find that this devalues the brand a little bit. And the analogy that I would have is, and Warren, I think you make a really interesting point with the $30 t-shirt that arguably they're leaving money on the table with. But I feel like, is this maybe an aspirational product that people who can't necessarily afford ENVE wheels are going to buy the ENVE t-shirt in the same way that a man or a woman who wants to own a Porsche but can't afford the Porsche buys the Porsche hat instead, in order to relate to the brand in an aspirational way, but without necessarily being able to afford the underlying flagship products of the brand. I really don't know why ENVE needs to be in the business of making kit. I guess the answer is easy. They want to generate revenue somewhere else, which is fine. I think, they're a commercial enterprise. I'm not going to fault them for that. But I do think that there is value in specializing in something, and that something for ENVE, in my opinion, shouldn't be kit. I think they should leave perhaps kit to other brands that do only kit.
Yeah, they shouldn't bother making bike frames either, which they also do or got into recently. But anyway, that's a whole other tangent.
But Tony, I'm surprised you don't like this. As the owner of multiple Campagnolo t-shirts, I'm surprised that the ENVE apparel doesn't speak to you more.
No, because I think that it doesn't fit, like, it doesn't sort of fit with the off-race Campagnolo, even Panorama. Like, there's something sort of bad about it that doesn't kind of, it seems really sort of cheesy and cheap. I think I really feel like what you're saying with the Porsche thing is pretty accurate. But I want to bring up sort of a bigger concern, and it's really a concern for society at large and not just the cycling world. But as you scroll through the Horizon collection on envy.com, you see there's a photo of a woman in a trucker hat. And is there a concern that we should be looking out for, that trucker hats are going to come back into vogue, that, we need to stop this now with ENVE before Von Dutch makes a huge comeback? Is this something, like, this is a big worry for me, that ENVE has, possibly done some market research and feels these trucker hats are going to be sellable?
I feel like trucker hats are probably like a gravel thing. I feel like that's,
Yes.
If they're coming into cycling, it's probably like somebody's wearing them at the finish line of Unbound or something. And next thing you know, like, Punked is going to come back and Ashton Kutcher is going to be wearing an ENVE trucker hat, and it's an episode they're punking like the winner of Unbound.
Warren, do you see trucker hats at cross races much, or not really?
No, actually, kind of surprising.
So it's more of a gravel thing. I'm sure.
Yeah,
I guess
think so.
mountain bike maybe, but we've already established that gravel is just a
Big
front
mountain
for a
bike.
big mountain bike.
Just for, if you see anybody at a gravel race, our listeners out there, I'll do it myself, but I have no plans of being at a gravel race. Tell them to take off the trucker hat, throw that into the canal. That's garbage. We had our trend in, what was it, 2003, 2002. Everyone had a lot of fun. People wore different styles. We moved on. Let's keep that in the past. Not everything needs to reemerge in fashion.
All right, next release we're going to talk about, and it's actually a great segue from the $30 t-shirt to the $100 t-shirt. Former Tour de France winner Chris Froome has launched a high-end fashion clothing line, and you can buy it. You can buy the t-shirt for $100 a pop, and that's US dollars. The collection is called One Pedal at a Time. It's in collaboration with a Miami-based designer named Fabrice Tardieu. So I guess with a name like that, he's probably not from Miami. He sounds like he's French. But, Chris Froome describes this as a laid-back, luxury, cycling-inspired sportswear collection focused on providing meticulously handcrafted garments designed with fine finishing in mind, while combining comfort and modern-day athleisure wear. One pedal at a time, guys, from Chris Froome. There's a $90 t-shirt. I said it was $100. No, it's actually $90 US dollars, the t-shirt. The long sleeve t-shirt is $105. Track pants are $125, but there's also a $220 hoodie called the Froome Bike Gray Hoodie. What did Cycling Fashion Week think about that?
So I will renege a bit on my last statement. Looking at this, if I have to choose between outfits, this or an ENVE trucker hat and t-shirt, I will walk around in a trucker hat and t-shirt all day. Like, this is awful. I hope to never see anybody. I don't think anyone will buy it. Like, I don't think Froome has enough cachet. I mean, he's already known as a very unstylish person, but just like he's kind of lost his glory. He's really fallen off, and this stuff is just like cheesy. This is something my grandmother would see at like some like, I don't know, like kitschy market and be like, oh, Tony likes cycling. If this says I love cycling or whatever the hell it says, and I'll get it for him and stuff. Like, this isn't luxury brand. This doesn't evoke anything. The guy who said he's collaboration with designer shouldn't call himself a designer. He should quit his job. He should just move on to something else because he's not good at it.
It feels like it's something you would get at Kmart or Old Navy or something like that, like in just like the sales section. It does not look exclusive in any way. And I don't know if I agree with you, Tony. I think there probably are some like Chris Froome fanboys out there from his Sky days that would buy this, and they're probably really wealthy. And just the fact that it costs, it's like so many things in cycling, it costs money, therefore I should buy it. A lot of people might think that. So, I mean, probably not going to see any people we associate with wearing it, but like, I don't know, it might be hanging at in your dentist's office or something sometime soon. And the way Chris Froome always stares down at his power meter, like if I saw somebody wearing this, I would just stare down at the ground and look away because it's hideous.
I just want to start off my take by saying that I believe Chris Froome is a great champion. I was never a Chris Froome fan. I was actually rooting against him while he was racing. To be fair, he's still racing. I just allude to him as, being in the past, mostly because he's not going to contend really for anything going forward. Had a bad injury, never really came back from it being the same. But I do have some great Chris Froome memories of watching him race. For example, this epic Giro breakaway that he did on the Colle delle Finestre. I think it might have been 2018 or 2019. It was just before the pandemic. I think he was down in GC. Was he down to Simon Yates, or I can't remember who it was, to Simon Yates. And then he put up this 125 solo breakaway, kind of a Hail Mary pass, had no chance of succeeding, but he pulled it off, ended up winning the Maglia Rosa and the Giro. One of the biggest panache moments of pro cycling that I've ever watched. But I never liked Chris Froome for the simple reason that he has always been, in my opinion, perhaps the least elegant rider of the bunch. His position on the bicycle, actually a topic that we should talk about at some point, position not from an efficiency standpoint, but from a style standpoint. And Chris Froome's position on the bicycle is objectively one of the ugliest ones that you could have looked at, with his giant kind of body, with his elbows out, with his neck all bent, looking at his stem or his power meter. Truly one of the least elegant riders out there. So I find it a little bit ironic that he would be the guy to come out with a fashion line to sort of tell people this is how you're supposed to look off the bike. So for this reason, I just really struggled to see this. Are there any Chris Froome fanboys out there? Let us know. I personally don't think there are. There's people like Tom Brady that are going in the same line of business, launching an athleisure brand after they're retired. Okay, sure. But arguably, there's probably more Tom Brady fanboys out there than Chris Froome fanboys. So I personally don't really think this makes sense. I think he's a great champion, but I'm going to be a no on this release.
This collection makes me worry how bad Peter Sagan's inevitable clothing collection is going to be.
I still think it'll be better. Like fortunately for any pro coming out after this with some sort of thought towards, a apparel, fashion, athleisure thing, it can only go up from this, right? Like there's no way you can make this worse.
What do you guys think the Peter Sagan release will be when he retires? I think it's going to be Ed Hardy, personally. It's going to be Ed Hardy. It's going to be called the Make Party collection.
Yeah, I was going to say, Make Party will definitely be involved.
But then he's just like, we talked about how, we're going to buy the kit. Don't worry, everybody out there, the Rock Racing, right? If he goes into the Ed Hardy style, it might actually in its own way be cool. Like you could find, just you could have Eastern European house dance party themed after, for your end of year club cycling party, and everyone wears the Peter Sagan Make Party kit, last leisure wear, and you've got the strobe lights and absinthe and stuff going. So it could be okay, it could be good, but either way, it's going to be better than whatever this crap Chris Froome's come up with.
All right, moving on to the next release that we're going to talk about this week. So this was announced last week as well. It is part of the Escapism collection from Panache Studios, the brand that currently sits atop the cycling fashion world that dictates the tone that the conversation is going to be taking. So our friends over at Panache Studios in Copenhagen released the Escapism bibs. They are designed to be their most durable, abrasion-resistant bibs. They are built for the world of touring. So this is part of the gravel world, I would say. And the main characteristics of those bibs is the side pockets. So on the thigh or on the quads, there's a little pocket. I'm reluctant to call them cargo bibs because that they don't quite look like cargo pockets, but there's a pocket on the side of each leg that you can use to put either your phone or an energy bar or something rectangular, something that's not too thick, I suppose, can go into these bibs. So they released this on Instagram. It comes, it's obviously, I'm looking right now at their website, panamastudios.com, and it comes in a few colors. It comes in a bluish green, sort of metallic blue / green. It comes in a, I guess, brown or gold called dark stone color. So like a faded brown color, as well as a black traditional bib color. What did we think of those cargo bibs from Panache Studios?
Alex, I just want to correct you because you're trying to say they're not cargo bibs. These are cargo bibs. Like that would be such a Panache thing for them to make cargo bibs for then people who love this brand to be like, no, they're different. They pockets are like sleeker. No, these are cargo bibs. I mean, I don't mind the colors of the bibs, and I'm just noticing on the website it actually says they're waterproof, which is interesting, and I'm not really sure what that means when it comes to bibs. They say it's for touring, so maybe the thought is you're wearing these on like a bike packing trip or something like that, and you get caught in the rain, your crotch will stay dry. I don't know. Panache, I don't really know what to say.
So these Warren's right. These are 100% cargo bibs, and they are delving into the awful world of gravel styling. You mentioned it earlier, and we've talked about this a lot. Pattern Mills supposed to be driving the conversation, but this is a copy of this is behind. This is what everyone else has already done. I mean, we've always talked about they got great marketing. I love the photos. Their colors are great, but I mean, they're late to the ugly cargo bib party. Cargo bibs party. Like it's not exciting or new. And I mean, I don't know, they got, again, good marketing. So this is, you go, whatever you want, Rafa, Cadence, a million brands have already done this before. La Passion. And I mean, to be honest, none of them should be doing it, right? Like in the hierarchy of way to ruin your bike fashion, bar bags are bad, but if I need extra space, I will put a bar bag on before I shove a banana in the side of my bib. So already, this isn't bad. And we get it. Big mountain bikes controlling everything. They've probably, Panormal's now part of Big Mountain Bike, and they got to them and they said, you've got to make this gravel privateer thing because we've got to kill road cycling altogether.
I was just going to ask, is this the moment Panormal is jumping the shark? And if so, in cycling apparel, is jumping the shark like cargoing the bib? I don't know.
I think that's a good term.
Aren't you the owner, Warren, of Cargo Bibs?
I cannot confirm nor deny such an accusation. I will admit to nothing on this cycling fashion podcast.
I mean, if some of our listeners out there are going on gravel rides with Warren, just look at his quads, because you might see a banana popping out of there. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm not gonna say that you do definitely own Cargo Bibs, but I've heard rumors, Warren.
If I owned a thing, I would only wear them when doing 160 kilometers on Zwift, so that I don't have to have a stool beside me. I would just have my that's the only way I would, if I were to own such thing. Big if.
I just want to say on this release, I hate the idea of cargo bibs. If you go back and listen to old episodes, you'll see that I've been on the record saying that gravel should only exist to the extent that you're wearing road kit on gravel. I personally
Agreed.
see gravel as an extension of the road world. It appears right now that big corporate cycling, which is really big mountain bike, is trying to appropriate gravel into the world of mountain bike and is pushing it towards that side of the spectrum. I am a firm believer that gravel exists as an extension of road cycling. And I've actually been questioning my ownership of a cyclocross bike to the extent that the gravel roads near where my country house is are predominantly luxury gravel roads. It's hard packed dirt, which you can totally ride with a road bicycle. And to the extent that I can ride it with a road bike, I don't see the interest of owning a cyclocross bike, and nor do I see the interest of ever bringing this gravel style into the practice of gravel cycling. I do want to say a couple things though. I like the color, that brown, that faded brown color that they have for bibs. I do like it. We talked about the ENVE Kit 2 episodes ago, I believe, and that is their kind of signature move, the faded chocolate bibs. I like that color. I know that's a controversial take. People don't really seem to like that color, but personally, I do like it. It seems like you dried out your black bibs in the hot sun for many days, and that's kind of how they faded. And I find that that's a good look. I'm going to be a no on this release, although like I said, I do like the color.
I agree with everything Alex said. I think I've not on record myself, at least on record with agreeing with Alex that gravel should only exist as an extension to your road cycling. It shouldn't be its own, its own category as well. I just want to say, I want to give a shout out. Looks like the Escapism collection from Panorama Studios includes a hooded insulated jacket, which our good friends over at Albion have already been doing. So I think it's safe to say that Albion is now driving the conversation in cycling and staying outdoors a little bit longer.
Yeah, MAP actually also their off-bike stuff that include an insulated hooded jacket came out recently post Albion doing it as well. So yeah, Panorama, I don't know.
They've carved the bibs.
Okay, next segment, it's the return of the Panache Police, where we tackle the important questions that are being asked in the cycling fashion world, and we provide definitive answers to those questions. So we got a question from a listener out in Australia, actually by the name of Jared, who reached out to us, and Jared asked, guys, is giving your bike a name, is this Canal or is this Panache Police approved? So the idea of giving your bicycle a name, I guess people do this on Strava. I've seen people give random names to their bikes on Strava, whereas other people will just write Specialized or Cannondale or whatever bike you're riding. So is this Canal or is this Panache Police approved?
If you want to give some type of vehicle a name, you got to buy a boat. It's not for bikes. I think that you could be a little more clever on your Strava name if you want to maybe differentiate, if you own a couple Cannondales or something. But it strictly should be for Strava and sort of organizing your rides there. You better not call it. You better not say, use the name to refer to it. That's about as far as you can go with it to kind of simplify yourself. You can give it a name, but I would say even just keep it simple. The green bike, maybe the name of the model, something like that. You don't need to come up with a clever sort of thing. If you want that, you buy a boat.
I agree with you because on Strava I do have names for each of my bikes and got a bit creative with some of them. In actual practice, no, I didn't spend $7,000 on a bike to not be hey, my low. I want to say my low every time I'm talking about it. I don't want to say my Lucille or whatever. It's no, I'm going to reiterate the brand of my bike to reinforce how much money I spent on it. And the same thing if I had a number 22 or a Firefly or a Moots, I would just say my Moots. I would probably say my Moots titanium bike that cost me 12 grand. In the same way, my cross bikes, a Ritchie, I'll just say my Ritchie. Naming your bike is also putting one of those name stickers on it as if you're a pro racer or something. Don't do it.
I've seen some people on Strava give their bikes names that are tied to their professional lives, and I believe that is extremely cringe. I'll give two examples of people that I have followed on Strava. I'm not very active on Strava right now. I think I discussed why on a previous episode, but there was an investment banker that I know. He called his bike the Deal Sled. And there's a consultant that I know, someone who works for one of the big consulting firms. He called it the Big Swinging Deck. And I thought that these two nicknames for his bikes were extremely cringe. I think you'd be just better off calling it your Specialized or your Cannondale.
I just also want to say by boat, I mean like yacht. Don't be poor and buy like a small boat. Like buy a big boat, like buy a yacht. Don't do poor people stuff.
Like for Strava, I know there's an argument depending on where you store your bikes. You don't necessarily want people to know what kind of bikes you have. So I think naming them whatever is there's an argument to be made there. But yeah, to Tony's point, buy a yacht. Yeah, the kind of yacht that's like on Below Deck, the reality show. Just one that's just massive and needs a crew to man it. You don't need a crew for your bike. You're on your bike. Don't name it.
Okay, second listener topic or question that we got asked. Someone wanted us to do a helmet deep dive. So to really go deep and talk about helmets and every aspect of helmets. Now, I don't know that we will do that much of a deep dive tonight, but I think we can discuss what our preferred models, what we own, what we like in terms of helmets, what are some of the cool models that have come out over the last few weeks, because it is true that we talk about kit a lot on this podcast. We've been talking about shoes. We've been talking about everything from glasses to even scarves to arm warmers, but we've never actually talked about helmets. And we wear helmets all the goddamn time when we're riding. So do you guys have any thoughts, any models of helmets that you are especially fond of that you want to talk about on this podcast today?
So I do think I've mentioned helmets before in a minimal way, and that's because of my love for cask. I think I actually had a cask a little while ago, but I'm recently into sort of back into cask. I got the Mojito in sort of matte black. I know the white rules, but I get to break rules because I'm on a cycling fashion podcast. And casks for me across the board seems to do really quality stuff that, a lot of these helmet companies have various price ranges. You get something in kind of a good price range. And the most important part about the cask is that on the strap, it says Italy made instead of made in Italy. And so when I ordered the helmet, I ordered it online. I forget, maybe Bike In or something. And I got and I thought, shit, did I get a knockoff? Like Italy made? Like, is this some sort of like knockoff? I thought I ordered from like a legit website. And then I looked it up, and that's actually how Cask writes it on the strap, Italy made. Cask is kind of my go-to. I think it's a safe bet. You kind of have to go for. I think kind of just some quick other advice. What are your shoes? If they're white, it's got to be a white helmet. If they're black, it's got to be a black helmet. That's my opinion. Some people are fine with black shoes and white helmet, but I don't need you going kind of crazy colors. I think POC is Cargo Bibs. I don't know. They just don't seem to be moving well. The stuff started looking outdated. So those are my kind of quick 2 cents on helmets. But if you're stuck and you don't have a lot of style, just buy a cask.
Agree on cask. I've had a Giro helmet for quite a while as well. I got a bunch of helmets, but I have a Giro. It's not the most expensive one, the synth. It's actually called the Giro Cinder, and it basically looks like the synth, has MIPS. I don't know the difference at all. It's just cheaper, but it comes in black and white. It's a solid helmet. I think if it works for your head, it's not a bad option. Cask looks a little better. And another one is the team I'm on is sponsored by Bolay helmets, which is kind of funny because they don't even sell the Bolay helmets as far as I know in Toronto yet. For some reason, they sponsor our team. Anyway, they're not for everybody, but I actually kind of like the look of the one I've got, and they're worth searching out if they work for you. They also come with those aero covers, which I was skeptical on, but they actually basically make it so you have like a fall winter helmet because they're so friggin' warm when you put them on. I don't actually use them for aero performance because to do that I would have to care about aero performance, which I do not. And I've also, the other one I was going to mention is a few people I know have laser helmets, and as much as I hate the name, I actually think their G1 helmet can look pretty good.
Yeah, I personally like the Sweet Protection helmet. So I agree. I'm not going to disagree with what you guys said. I think Cask is a very good option. I like the Sweet Protection line of helmets. They have the Falconer, which I think looks pretty good. And I find that they generally make a nice looking, sleek looking helmet as well. personally, I don't own the Sweet Protection. I'll say what I own in a little bit, but maybe the listeners should know that I've had a little story with helmets in the past. So many years ago, I was taken out by a car on a ride. So a car just came into the bike path and just completely destroyed me. I went flying above the car, landed right on my head, and had a concussion at that time, which took me a little bit of time to recover from. I was actually considering giving up cycling at the time, but obviously I came back. So I know it's a little bit off brand for Cycling Fashion Week host to say that I actually do legitimately care about the safety of a helmet, and I do read the reviews, and I go on the University of Virginia website where they look at how various helmets have performed on impact overall. And the basic minimum of what I'm going to be looking for in a helmet is MIPS. Anything that is below MIPS, I'm not even going to look at it. And for that reason, I have been drawn to the Bontrager Wavecell helmet, which I know Bontrager isn't especially a cool brand. And again, for the host of a podcast called Cycling Fashion Week, it's a little bit off brand, but I own the very basic white Bontrager Wavecell helmet, which I don't think it's particularly ugly. It kind of looks a little bit like those laser ones, Warren, that you were talking about. Something I did, though, I did rip out the Bontrager sticker on the side of the helmet because, I am the host of Cycling Fashion Week after all, and I didn't want the helmet to show that so in such a large manner that it was a Bontrager. But I did that predominantly because of the safety ratings of those helmets. But yeah, one brand I really like is Sweet Protection, and I actually do need a second helmet right now, and I think I'm going to give them a look.
Yeah, I think Alex put out a good point. As far as safety, I'm big into safety on it. I've had a few concussions. I do have hair, which is God's helmet, but it's good to get one on, an extra thing on top. The UVA, University of Virginia, has done a lot of independent research and rating on helmets. There's not a lot of really good, at least in Canada, and I think in the States too, national certification boards for helmets. A lot of it's opt-in. So if you are sort of on the fence about helmet from a style standpoint, maybe look up the University of Virginia study on helmets and find the one that's a little bit higher rated and a little bit safer, because collarbones heal pretty easily, head injuries don't.
I will say that the one thing that does suck about the Wavecell, other than the fact that it's Bontrager, the ventilation is pretty terrible on it. And I don't know, I get itchy when I ride too, and I like to be able to put my finger in the openings of the helmets, and the beehive that I'm carrying on my head from the Bontrager helmet prevents me from scratching my head while I'm riding, and that's quite annoying. I have owned as well in the past one of these POC mushroomy looking helmets.
I think all three of us have.
I think we have. Look, we are fashion victims. They were cool about 5 years ago or 6 years ago, something like that, and they stopped being cool pretty quickly. But I have owned one. I just wanted to put that out there in case someone saw me in the past and wanted to report on that.
I still have a POC ventral, but yeah, I pretty much avoid wearing it at all costs. It's less mushroomy than some of the other ones, but yeah.
I think the conclusion, though, is the most important part. Once you've decided on the safety, is making sure your color. And for me, I think it's got to go with your shoes. If you're looking at it, you got white shoes, you got to get a white helmet.
Does that completely rule out, high vis orange helmets, for example? Actually, our good friend Prempton from Toronto, he's out riding in Switzerland and France right now. He was posting about that on his Instagram a couple of weeks ago, and we jumped into the fray, and he said that he doesn't understand why most helmets sold in his shop aren't the high vis orange helmets, because arguably from a safety standpoint, sure, you want the MIPS, you want the good technology to prevent you from getting concussions or from actually minimizing the damage if you do get a concussion, but you also want cars to see you. And for that reasons, you should go for the fluorescent yellow or the orange or something like that. But if you are a Cycling Fashion Week listener and you want to match your helmet to your shoes, that's going to be very difficult to do. So are you guys completely a no on ever getting a high vis helmet?
Is white not high vis? Like, I don't know.
Is it? I don't, does it qualify as high vis? I don't know.
I mean, to me, it stands out as much as fluorescent yellow.
I can't do it. I can't do the fluorescent, but I don't know if I would fault someone for that reason. It's like I think I might have thrown it in the Canal. Maybe Warren did the lights on the back on the day and stuff, and as much as I want to go back on Canal stuff, the more I kind of thought about it, I thought maybe, if it does even 10% of something, it's a terrifying world out there in the cycling. And I'm so worried that someone's going to get a ghost bike for me if I die, and it's going to be a trek or something like that.
I did throw daytime running lights in the Canal, and I'll stand behind that. You guys are talking about safety, but nah, I'm still anti-safety.
It's been bad out there with what happened to Egan Bernal as well, taken out by a bus. And
no, he rode straight into that bus. There's a video out.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. And I was like,
Yeah.
I feel bad. I don't want anybody getting hurt, but like, it seemed at some level that he
was in the TT position. He rode straight into the bus. It wasn't the bus's fault.
Well, anyway, it's.
I'm not shaming the bike rider. I'm just saying.
We're sending our best wishes to Egan Bernal because he's also a great champion, and you never like to see people get injured like that. And there's also this influencer he's
a fan
big
of the
on
pod
Instagram.
too, I assume.
Egan Bernal is an every week listener of Cycling Fashion Week. So shout out to Egan Bernal. Also, Imogen Cotter, she's an influencer in the cycling world on Instagram. Something really bad happened to her while she was riding in Girona. Some new driver, relatively young driver, veered into the wrong lane and hit her head first, and she nearly shattered all her bones. So it's dangerous out there. It makes you think when you're a rider what could happen to you. So yeah, definitely for me, the safety aspect of a helmet. I know it's off brand for Cycling Fashion Week, but that's definitely something I consider. Okay, into the Canal, where the segment where we throw something that we hate from the world of cycling or cycling fashion into Montreal's Lachine Canal. Let's start with Warren this week. What do you got for us, Warren, sending into the Canal?
Well, we're still in the middle of winter. A lot of us, or at least, in the Northern Hemisphere, a lot of us are in the middle of training. I've been on Trainer Road for about a month now, and I want to throw VO2 max workouts into the Canal because they are too hard and I don't like doing them. I don't think they're helping me look good on the bike. Panting and being out of breath is not a pro look, which is me every time I try to do a VO2 max workout. And yeah, I don't know. I just really hate doing them. I'm 37 years old. What's it really doing for me? I'm not sure it's those like sprint drills are helping me come cyclocross race season. I don't want to do them anymore. They're in the Canal.
So I think I sent a message to our chat group after one hard trainer ride. I don't know if it was quite called a VO2 max ride, but it was definitely a hard one. And I just said, are you ever in the middle of a ride, a trainer ride, and just think, is being fast worth it? And that's like how I feel sometimes. Like it's like you think of like, oh, I'm gonna train, I'm gonna get fast, I want to be able to do this stuff, and then you're just in this fucking agony that these Trainer Road, Wahoo systems, Zwift, there's probably others, put together for you, and it's just like it just feels impossible. I don't know, and I mean, when I have a 380 FTP, so obviously it's very high, so my workouts are hard, but I'm with you, Warren. Sometimes you debate, it's not going to help me look any better on the bike. It's just going to put me through hell.
I say that because with some train workouts, both, the old Sufferfest ones, which are now part of our system, I assume it's still in there, the Elements of Style video, and even Trainer Road, on the, some of the sweet spot threshold stuff or the endurance rides, they have like tips that are related to form, both in terms of like pedaling efficiency, but also just helps you look good on the bike. Like Elements of Style video in particular, that's about like good form, but just like kind of like relaxing your shoulders and all those things that translate to looking pretty comfortable and relaxed on the bike. So that's all for that. And I also think I get a lot of value out of the sweet spot. But like VO2 max, they're telling me to do drills, which sometimes they are. I'm not doing them because I can barely fucking breathe.
I want to shout out that video, Elements of Style by the Sufferfest, which is now part of the Wahoo system. If anyone at Wahoo's listening, that they should find a way to release that separately. Like obviously, I'm sure Wahoo wants everyone to join Wahoo system, but if people are just not willing to, that is such a great video to teach you how to ride a bike properly and how to look good on your bike, that it's too bad you can't like buy that for $2.99 off of iTunes or something like that, because everyone, whether you're using Zwift or Trainer Road or whatever, should watch that that video. It's that helpful, and it's that good to both the efficiency of your pedal stroke and looking really nice on the bike. You want to look like Pantani, not Froome.
Yeah, I think the cyclists who look the best, we discussed that in our WhatsApp group at some point a couple of weeks ago. But I always found the cyclist who looked the best on a bike in terms of his position and his elegance was David Millar, the Scottish cyclist, who I'm going to say he retired maybe 6 or 7 years ago, something like that. Was around in the 2000s and the early 2010s.
He was a doper, right?
He did dope. I think he admitted to doping. I think he serve a suspension. I don't remember if he did, but I do believe that he admitted to doping. I'm actually worried that he didn't now that I'm saying this, because this would be a terrible accusation on my part. But yes, he did. He was banned for 2 years in 2004 after he admitted to taking banned performance-enhancing drug. Upon his return, he became an anti-doping advocate. So there you go. That's a little 180 for you. But he had an incredibly elegant bike position. Look like David Millar, don't look like Froome. Just on the training, guys, I wish I could take part in this conversation because I really have not been training lately. First of all, I had COVID. My daughter had COVID, so I had a toddler running around the house all the time trying to work at the same time was pretty much a disaster. And I'm also moving. At the moment, I'm in the midst of a move, which means that my bike trainer is in a box somewhere. So it's been pretty difficult to get any training done. But actually, as a parent, I like the VO2 Max workouts because I can get them done in 30 minutes and then go on to working or parenting or something like that. It's very efficient.
Your excuses for why you aren't faster are in peak form, though.
I'm not in peak form, like I said earlier. My FTP
your
is only
your excuses are in peak form. You've concocted them all for the when you come for a ride. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hang on. Can we slow the pace? I got this, I got that, and the other.
Well, first of all, I'm on the record that I hate the community, so group rides are not for me. So I'm gonna avoid that to begin with. And second of all, like I said earlier, my FTP is 360 down from 370. It is what it is. 7.2 watts per kilo, but it could be 7.5, but it's going to have to be 7.2 this year.
So just so our listeners know, when Alex is in Toronto and we set up a ride that he thinks is going to be me, him, and Warren, a morning ride, I'm going to secretly invite the community along for a big group ride. Hey, we won't tell anyone. Everyone will comment. It'll be like a 30-person community-oriented group ride.
And we'll hammer it.
And we're going to discuss the benefits of community and of having a large group. Yeah, that sounds like hell, especially if it's at 6 a.m.
5:30 for you to make it so you can make it to work.
Okay, Tony, what do you got in the Canal this week?
I know we just went on this rant about safety and importance for safety, but I think, safety is important, but you have to dance. You have to dance on it's a fine line you're dancing on between being safe and looking like a moron. And it's winter. I haven't been out, but for some reason this popped to my head recently was those stupid helmet mirrors that you see, typically the older generation, which we're fast approaching, unfortunately. Wearing them, the ones that kind of go from the side for the obvious reason that they look terrible. And then for another reason I debate the safety of it, because yes, you might be able to see behind you, but if you crash, how is that mirror not going through your eye? Like I've crashed with a helmet on, and if you hit, and I've hit actually that front part of my face where that would be, and that whole thing crumples like that. That mirror. You might be lucky it might go out the other way, but if it's going towards you, it's cutting you, it's going into your eye if you don't have glasses on. Like, I don't see that the safety benefit is at all there. I don't want the rear view mirror, I think it's actually a really important skill for all cyclists to learn and practice. This is how to do a proper shoulder check while keeping a really steady straight line. So the mirrors in general, I'm off, but if you feel you have to, if your partner is bugging you to put a mirror on, get one of those like bar end mirrors, because the helmet mirror, it looks ridiculous, and I think the risk is too high to other parts of your face. So helmet mirrors are in the Canal.
When you mentioned looking over your shoulder, I think that's part of being aware of your surroundings, which is really important when you're on the bike. And then also, I just wanted to add, not to single this person out, but I know a guy who a couple of years ago, he had one of those mirrors, and on a group ride, I wasn't there, but he hit going down a big descent. He hit this like speed bump, crashed, and got a really bad concussion. So didn't help him.
Nah, it looks terrible. I think a better option would be to get like a Garmin Varia or that sensor that tells you the radar, the sensor that tells you whether a car is coming. At least people don't see that so much, and it doesn't look quite as bad as a helmet mirror. And I don't think the Garmin Varia will do much. If you crash, it's not going to hurt you like the helmet mirror might. No, that's definitely in the Canal. I don't even know why we're discussing this. It's such an obvious in the Canal that there should be no debate here. Just throw it straight in the Canal, never pull it out.
I know it joins my like ankle socks, and I feel like I've had a few obvious ones.
We're really stating the obvious here on into the Canal.
But it's a risk. You got the listeners, out there. So, we get a lot of, feedback and people asking questions. No one's asked on this, but it shows that some people are still sort of learning the ropes. And, there's always a risk that someone's out there, they're listening to us, they've taken a lot of heeded our advice, but then they threw on a helmet mirror because they feel safer. And now they know not to do that and to, practice your shoulder checks.
Okay. I'm going to do my Canal item this week. So I want to be on the record that Cycling Fashion Week is a pro hydration podcast. We are pro water on this podcast. We advocate drinking lots of it. We advocate hydrating in general and staying hydrated, but big bottles, touring sized bottles, gravel sized bottles, I believe they're 750 milliliter bottles. So something that's the size of a wine bottle, basically. If you are running that on your bike while you are riding, that is in the Canal. And this kind of fits this discussion that we had earlier about the gravel bibs, the cargo bibs, where anything that's gravel style is in the Canal. I believe that these bottles, these big bottles, they belong to the gravel world a little bit, the long, slow, off-road type rides. And the reason why I'm talking about this was because Tony recently was exchanging messages again with our good friend Prempton from Alpha Velo. And Tony, what were you showing Prempton? You were showing him your bike, or what were you trying to show him?
I was asking his thoughts, because I know you don't like it, on fenders on the bike. I've got some sort of
another obvious Canal
clip-on fenders, and I sort of, we're not out on the road yet, but I pulled them out and sort of stuck them on to see what they look like while the bike's up on the trainer. And I'm very pro fenders, and I sent it to Prempton because I was pretty sure that he'd be pro fenders, which he is. But then he noticed that in the photo on my bike that I have some 750 mil bottles, and so he says, I said, "Our fender, are you okay with fenders?" Yes. ... But not those big ass 750 mil bottles. You're not touring. So basically, so Prempton got it. I love hydrating. I'm like Tom Brady. I love hydrating, but Prempton shaved me, and I'm certainly in the market for some 500 mil bottles. If anyone's out there, they want to send me some free stuff, I'll gladly take some. I need them matching, but I'll gladly take some 500 mil bottles.
People keep it 500. Ditch the 750 milliliter bottles. I get that you need to drink water. I get that y'all are sweaty people, that you need to replace that sweat that you're generating, but the 750 just doesn't look good. It's too big. It doesn't work on a sleek road cycling frame. Stop at the gas station a little more to refuel. I don't know what it might be. You're buying some Gatorade, or just, ask someone to give you more water. Someone should be following you in a car to give you more bottles. That's probably the most pro thing that you can do. But 750 milliliter bottles, it's just too big. That's a big no.
But yes to fenders.
I'm a hard no on fenders personally, but anyway, that's for another day.
I'm a yes to fenders as well. But also in terms of the bottle thing, like, listen, I get the small bottles look better, but as somebody who physically just like consumes all liquids at a very fast rate, it doesn't matter what, my body just needs hydration. Like, I'll admit it, I frequently use those larger bottles, and I will say also depends on the brand. Certain brands that make those bottles, including I think the one that was in the photo Tony sent Prempton, happened to look worse than some of the other ones. I primarily use some fabric gripper bottles. I think the larger version aren't that bad. I'm not saying they're stylish, but I think they're a little better. And yeah, for me, this is one time where function actually is important. Like I on a hot day, like I'll crush a 750 milliliter bottle on a morning ride. Like that's how badly I need.
I will cramp up and go dry before I have these
I'm
going.
with Alex. I think if like I'm promising the world out there, I'll switch to the 500s, and I think if I'm on a ride with Warren, I'm going to ask to see a 750, and then we unfortunately Lachine Canal's in Montreal, but I'll toss it into Lake Ontario or the Humber River or something because
Don Valley.
the dot. What are we gravel riding here? But no, I'm with Alex. Cramp up, go dehydrated. Have to stop at the coffee stop and drink everything drink all the water they have. Keep it 500.
Okay, this is the return of We Rate Your Bike for Free, the segment where listeners send us photos and a description of their bike, and we give our thoughts and rate it and give you potential ways that you can improve the look of your bike. And we do that for free here on Cycling Fashion Week. So this week we got a DM on Instagram from a listener in the United Kingdom. So nice to see that we are internationalizing the people who listen to the podcast. So the guy says, "Hey guys, what do you think of my Look 675 bike from circa 2015? I've added 12K weave glossy carbon wheels, exposed carbon bottle cages, and Assioma Favero Duo pedals. Great pedals. Love them. I'm Joe, by the way, and I live in the UK. Feel free to rate my bike on your podcast. I have just found it and have been binging episodes. Hilarious so far. Keep it up." Which reminds me, actually, don't forget to go rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars, hopefully. Leave a little review. We've really been enjoying reading those. So Joe from the UK, he has a Look 675. Let me describe the bike a little bit. It's a very aggressive looking bicycle. I guess looks are generally they're kind of pure breed kind of race bikes in general. They all look aggressive like that. So in terms of the color scheme, it's got a predominantly white frame, but there are some red, some black, and some charcoal gray lines on it. The Look logo is in I guess that's black or dark charcoal gray. The wheels are, I can't quite tell what brand the wheels are, but they do have that carbon weave, as he mentions. It looks like they might be 40 millimeter rims on that bike. It's a rim brake, actually, which props to Joe, because that's pretty stylish overall. As he mentioned, he's got the Assioma pedals. The top tube of the bike is slanted a little bit, but it's got that really interesting stem, which I'm sure we'll discuss, which is in fact so slanted that it looks like it's integrated as part of the top tube. Like there's nothing goes up from the top tube to the stem, but because that top tube is slanted, it looks like the stem goes up a little bit. So definitely something I haven't seen too many times in terms of the stem. His bar tape is white. His saddle is black and red. And as I mentioned before, he's got these exposed carbon bottle cages there. So what do we think of Joe's Look 675 bike, guys?
I want to start by just giving him recognition for a lot of like small details that he's, I think, made a conscious decision to do. Like the brake cables are red to match the little touches of red in the frame, and even in the saddle as well. I assume either that saddle came with the bike, or he's purposefully picked a saddle that has a bit of red. And then also, Alex, when you're describing the Look logo, it's actually exposed carbon when you look closely at the Look logo, and the new wheels he got, the pattern in the carbon, I don't know what the technical term is, but the layup or whatever it is, the pattern of the carbon of the wheels almost matches that of what's in the Look logo, both on the down tube and seat post, I think. And then the bottle cages almost match that as well. So I have to give him some props for just assume that's a conscious style choice. It's got to be. I think it's too kind of like it goes together too well not to be. He also did one thing which would fall under this, is white bar tape. But I would give a knock on that because white bar tape, it just gets so dirty so quickly. And you can even see there's some wear marks on his bar tape here. So I personally wouldn't go that way. But I just wanted to recognize all these really small choices that just reflect pretty high attention to detail.
I mean, yeah, that's why. Like I don't want to give him a 10. I think it's too high, but I think I might have to go as high as a 9 or something because it's the nuances of it. It's a unique bike. I don't think I've ever seen it. I want to give a shout out to Look. I think I've mentioned a couple times with their French. I think we have a lot of play with the Italian-made brands, and sometimes we overlook the France's contribution to cycling and some of the great stuff they've done. I ride Look pedals, but that's about as far as I've gone with Look. But yeah, it's a unique bike. When you guys see the picture, the stem is so slammed that it's essentially integrated into the top tube, and Warren sort of set it all right with the little sort of touches of exposed carbon, brake cables, everything. When I look at a nice kind of unique, cool rim brake bike, I breaks my heart a little sometimes that I have disc brakes because it is save the rim brake. It is a little nicer. And I do prefer the white bar tape, but like Warren said, this is a little bit dirty. So you've really got to kind of like stock up and rechange it every week or so if you're going to do white. And if you aren't capable of that from whatever reason, I would say, yeah, go to a black bar tape. Otherwise, this is a really unique and kind of great bike that I think would, if you saw it on the group ride, you'd be pretty smitten to ask some questions about.
Yeah, if you own a Look, you're definitely a connoisseur there. It's definitely a more niche brand that only people who know what they're doing are buying. This is a really good looking bike. Looks in general they're, like I said before, they're really aggressive, really fast looking bikes in general. So it's pretty hard to knock that bike. That stem though, it looks like some mutant stuff there. I've never really seen a stem like that. I can't say that I love the look of it just because it's so different from what you typically see on bikes, but look, it is slammed, and I can't knock that. I think congratulations for having it so slammed. On the bar tape front, I don't like the white bar tape. Is it a hard and fast rule that your bar tape should always match your seat?
I've always had a black seat and black bar tape, so
in his case though, his seat is black and red. So I feel like he could go either way for the bar tape. I feel like you could have a deep red bar tape that might work.
No, I don't want a red bar tape. I don't want I just think like bar tape's one of those things where a lot of people want to have fun with it, but stop having fun with it. Like just keep it simple, black or white. Like unless you're like,
But we just said not white, so black.
No, I'm fine with white. Like if you have but it's the question is if you have a white saddle, is it a white tape, or can you do black saddle, white tape? Like I'm fine with white. We got to kind of do it, but like unless you're leading the Giro or something, I don't want to see pink tape. Like it's I don't want to. I know even if you have accents of red or whatever, like I don't want to see that. Like I want black or white, and then that can be judged based on your saddle and stuff. I mean, we might have to sort of like write the rules on this. For me, I've always had black bar tape, black saddle. I like black. It's simple for me, but I'm not against white. But I don't want color.
So I think I'm personally against white in general. I don't love the look of white. I definitely think he should go with black bar tape. Although, again, if you're following the rule that it matches your seat, I think he could go red there. I'm not as opposed to color as you are, Tony, although I would never own it personally just because I'm boring like that. I would go for black bar tape. My only other complaint about Joe's bike, which I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 because it's very well done overall. My only other complaint is, and I made the same complaint when Jay from Miami several months ago sent us also his look, which I believe was a murdered out matte black look that he had at the time. I'm sure he still owns it now. Is that if you are enough of a connoisseur to go out of your way to buy a look, you have to get the Pete Mondrian colorway for the bike, which is the colorway that the La Vie Claire team had in the 1980s. And there was a French team who brought it back a few months ago, and we actually talked about it on the podcast. You have to go for that yellow, white, the sort of primary colors with geometric patterns colorway on your Look bike. I think it should be mandatory. I think Look should only sell bikes in that colorway. That's my only complaint. Other than that, Joe, it's a very nice bike, very well done, like Warren said, the little details warrant at least a 9 out of 10 for this bike. And we'll post it on our Instagram as soon as we release the episode on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Cycling Fashion Week, and please send us your bikes for us to review on future podcasts. All right, thanks for tuning into Cycling Fashion Week, brought to you by Le Club. They are your go-to destination online, leclub.cc, for premium cycling apparel. They've got brands like MAP, Service Course, Fingers Crossed socks. They've got Alba Optics, and they've got a lot of other brands coming up on leclub.cc. This spring, they ship worldwide, and they do bespoke packaging. Demand more from your cycling experience with leclub.cc. That's it for this episode. Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Tony. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Cycling Fashion Week. Send us emails, cyclingfashionweek@gmail.com. Please go subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and please leave a review. We love to read the reviews. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another episode of Cycling Fashion Week. Until then, take care.
We are rolling pedals for the gold medals. Our job is to win. Astana is my team. We are riding to win, and it will be done. Astana is my team from Kazakhstan.